Financial woes continue to mount for China. For the last 2 decades, the country was considered the world's biggest growth story, but that is no longer the case, it seems. A momentous shift is taking place in the global markets. Investors are pulling out billions of dollars from Chinese markets. And where is this money now headed? Well, let me tell you, it's headed to India. That's right. Yes, Wall Street giants are endorsing India as the prime investment destination for the next decade at least. I'm talking about the likes of Goldman Sachs Group Inc. and Morgan Stanley. Hedge fund giant Marshall Wace is also counting on India. It has positioned the country as its biggest bet after the US. Switzerland's Vontobel Holding AG is also doing the same. It has made India its top emerging market holding. The British-American global asset management group, Janus Henderson, is also looking at fund house acquisitions. Even Japan's otherwise conservative retail investors are embracing India and limiting exposure to China. Simply put, India is gradually becoming the first choice of global investors. And why not? Let's just consider the facts. India, the world's fastest growing major economy, has vastly expanded its infrastructure under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has pushed for bringing global capital and supply lines into India. India's economic growth and the value of its stock market are closely linked. Over the past 2 decades, the GDP and market capitalization have grown hand in hand. Investors now see in India what they used to see in China. That is a vast, dynamic economy which is opening up to global money in new ways. And China, on the other hand, is stuck in its own economic mess. It's also drifting away from the Western-led order. In the US Exchange Traded Fund, or ETF market, the main fund buying Indian stocks received record inflows, while the 4 largest China funds combined saw major outflows. How much exactly? Of almost $800 million. Now, for those unversed, an ETF is basically a collection of investments like equities or bonds. And data shows that for every dollar that has been pulled out of China in the last 2 years, 50 cents have been invested in active funds of India. In mid-January, India briefly overtook Hong Kong, in fact, to become the world's 4th largest equity market. Morgan Stanley predicts it will become the 3rd largest by the year 2030. And making matters worse for China is its real estate crisis. Developers, you see, are starting fewer projects. Once thriving property companies are scrambling for foreign investments. Multi-billion-dollar companies have been pushed to the point of collapse. Millions of unfinished homes were sold but never delivered. More than 50 developers, most of them privately owned, have defaulted on their debt. In China, housing is no longer a safe investment. In contrast, India's real estate sector has been thriving. During the first half of 2023, more than $4 billion flowed into India in the form of private credit. And guess what? 50% of that went into real estate. As you can see, as China is buried under a mountain of economic woes, India is bagging more and more foreign investments. The question is, can China keep up? For some time now, China has been concentrating on space weapons, satellites that can jam radars and delay the detection of incoming hypersonic missiles. We have been telling you about this. Also about the simulations China has been carrying out. Scientists in China now claim to have developed a breakthrough technology. It is a surveillance device that can detect each and every radio signal. Let me just tell you what that means. Scientists in Beijing claim to have come up with a device that can monitor a wide bandwidth of electromagnetic spectrum real time. And how does this help the military, you ask? Well, it helps the PLA detect and lock an enemy signal, and do that at unprecedented speed. Details of this so-called breakthrough were published in a peer-reviewed paper on the 17th of January. The team says their finding will cause a quote-unquote profound shift in the art of war. When engaging in real-time monitoring, militaries can mostly only monitor signals between the range of 40 to 160 megahertz. And this is because of hardware limits. Signals outside this range are monitored by sampling scans. But this has loopholes. You can miss out something important. The Chinese scientists say their breakthrough device has extended the frequency range. The possibilities, they say, are endless. The Chinese PLA will now be able to monitor every frequency range, from those being used for radio enthusiasts to the frequency being used by Elon Musk's Starlink satellites, and also obviously in between you have frequencies being used by militaries like drones, radars, satellites. And then you have clandestine frequencies being used by spy agencies. Any kind of wireless communications. China will be able to capture all of this frequency, process the interactions and analyze them. Or so these scientists claim. The big question is, what will Beijing do with all of that data? WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move.